These podcasts get me in trouble all the time.
Selling Sunset, how do you even navigate that opportunity?
I was like, well, it. And then I got there and I was like, what is wrong with you people?
I mean business. I'm about my business. I'm here to this shit up.
Want to be a bitch? I'll be a Let's do it. Oh, wrong finger.
What does it mean to be emancipated?
My dad was like, let her go. She's gonna be fine.
So at 16, you were on your own. Do you feel like you did not have a childhood?
Well, actually, it was way more traumatic than that.
So at the club, what were you doing?
Bottle service. I had this client. He ended up giving me the biggest tip they've ever had.
How much was the tip?
$.
He was one of the biggest names in football.
When we got together, the partying and all of the stuff and like the self-medicating, I thought was just like a kid that got money and just got the new life.
I've always heard that he went on this $5 million bender.
He did. His plan was to spend all of his money.
What was it about Nick?
He taught me that I don't need to be toxic. I don't need to yell at you. It's just so healthy and normal, and people think that it's not.
I think they're thinking about the non-monogamy.
Nick's always been a playboy. Everybody knows that.
Truthfully, is there any level of jealousy? Before we get started, I want to personally invite you to subscribe if you haven't already. Joining our community means you'll be the first to know when new conversations drop. And trust me, we've got some incredible ones coming your way. Plus, your comments shape the show. So let us know who you want to see on the show next. You know what? I'd love to get your impression, because right now we sit in London. But we're both American. Mm-hmm. When you think about the differences between the US and the UK, pros and cons.
I feel like they're similar. I just feel like I feel a lot safer here. It's a lot, I don't know. I feel like everything just seems more peaceful and just different. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm jaded by being in LA for so long.
The constant complaint is that it rains so much more in London. Yeah. But you know what? The actual, if you look at the amount of precipitation in New York, it's typically greater.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Than London. So you think, okay, well, what's the issue?
I feel like since I've been here, I don't even think it's rained. Maybe I'll just keep bringing the sunshine.
This is good.
Yeah.
This is good. Now, you said that in comparison, you were really comparing it to LA.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's my main, yeah.
That's you.
Yeah.
You're LA.
Of course. Yeah.
All right. So you grew up in LA.
I grew up in Calabasas.
In Calabasas.
Yeah.
Okay, not LA.
Technically, no. Technically Calabasas, but I used to dance and act and do everything as a kid, so I spent majority of my time like in LA. Okay. But we lived in the suburbs, yeah.
Okay, so now, from what I know about Calabasas in particular, is that it is considered to be a little, a little foo-foo, a little snooty.
It is now.
It is.
It is now.
It hasn't always been that way.
I mean, it was always a very nice area, but it was also like, it was more horse and equestrian and farm life and like really suburban. Like, yes, we had nice homes and nice schools and all of those things, but it's like, it wasn't so, $40 million homes and madness. Like, not like now. Now all the celebrities have ruined it, but they've all come in and just blown up our spot. But yeah, it's always been nice.
Okay, yeah. So now, heritage-wise, what's the heritage?
We're all over the place. We don't know what my dad is because he's adopted. So he says he's Native American, but he doesn't really know anything else. So I think that's why I don't really know what to say when I am. But we know that my mom is Italian, and my grandma and my grandpa that raised me with her are Italian.
You're not curious?
Not really. I should be, probably. I think now looking at my son, I'm like, okay, maybe. Because Nick's mom as well has red hair. I have strawberry blonde hair naturally. Okay. And my son has red hair. Like, he has like a dirty blonde, like a strawberry blonde, but like a little bit more of a hue. And I think it comes from both sides. But when you look at like Native American and Italian, like, where does that come from?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Okay, fair.
I'm sure he'll want to know it.
Yeah, exactly. He'll do the DNA test.
Let him do it.
And he'll tell you,
Great.
like, Mom, don't you know?
Yeah.
You're actually from Ghana.
Exactly. I'm going to be like, great, fantastic.
All right. Yeah. So then Italian, did you feel like that was the culture that you grew up in?
Yeah, because I grew up basically with my mom and my grandma, and those are like the main people. So it was just Italian women with, yelling and making pasta and just all of that. And I didn't really embrace much else because I didn't actually get a relationship with my dad until I was like 12.
We often talk about this in these conversations around if there is an absence of a parent or both parents, how that then informs how we show up.
Yeah.
So how do you believe not having your father, you said, in your life until you were 12?
Yeah, 12.
How did that shape who you've become today?
I think in all kinds of ways, obviously. I think that it made me, I was more tomboyish. I was like really feeling like my mom used to say I was the man of the house. All the time.
Really?
Yes, I was the man of the house. Like if something was broken, I would fix it. If there's something like I'm putting up the Christmas lights and the Halloween, I'm on the roof. Like I was super into sports, super into fighting, super into and I mean like real, not, you know what I mean? Like real fighting. Not just fighting girls in the bathroom. Like real fighting.
You were beating girls down in the bathroom? That's what you were doing?
I was really into it. And now I see it in my son. He just took his first class. But yeah, I think a lot of it, I took on a lot of masculine energy, which I still heavily carry for sure.
So it sounds like there was a strong sense of independence.
Absolutely.
That you gained at an early age.
Yes.
So at 12, can you describe that first meeting with your father?
Well, actually, it was way more traumatic than that. I had one of my best friends who I grew up with, she ended up committing suicide. And me and my mom were already at odds. To this day, we don't get along at all. And I think at that moment, she was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to handle her or this going forward. I don't know what's going to happen. And
I'm sorry, this is your mother
my
saying
mother.
this?
Mm-hmm. So she basically called my dad, who I had never seen, and was like, come get her. And I was like, what? What do you mean, come get her? Who is this person? I'm not going with this man. And she's like, yes, you are. And literally packed up all my shit.
Oh, my God.
And yeah, that was how I met my dad. And we're sitting in the car staring at each other like, are we really doing this? And he's like, yeah, I think so.
Oh my God. So he lived in the same...
He lived in Orange County.
Okay.
And I lived in Calabasas. So it was 2 hours.
Okay. Did you know that, or were you aware?
No. So when I was probably maybe around the same age, maybe between 10 and 12, I started being like, okay, well, who's my dad? What is the situation? What is whatever? And she would just be like, don't worry about it. He's not in our life. Very dismissive.
Okay.
And, back then you had the phone book.
Yes.
Whip out the phone book. You're looking.
Yellow pages.
You're literally okay, somebody in here. I'm going to find a clue. I thought I was Inspector Gadget. I was going to figure it out. I finally went to my grandma, and my grandma was a big fan, still is, of my dad.
Okay.
And she was like, you are his twin, his walking everything, the way I walk, the way I talk, the way I do things. And I think that was a big resentment with my mom. I think that's kind of what it came from. Once I got older, I started to be like, oh, I remind you of him. Okay, I get it now. And my grandma was like, he's well, he's fine. I think she low-key was talking to him, but she didn't want to, because my mom was very toxic. And the thing, their relationship was, strained, and she didn't want my mom to cut her out of our lives by ruffling any feathers. So my grandma would low-key be like, just wait, everything's fine. Mm-hmm. And then when it happened, and I went with him, we immediately clicked. We are the same person, so it was fine. But it was very I'm born and raised here. I've had all my friends. I go to school here. I just lost my best friend, and now you're shipping me off with this man
who is a stranger. He's your father, but he's your stranger.
I don't know you. What is happening? So it was a very weird experience, because I think that in that moment, it was when I officially turned off all emotion. It was in that moment that I was like, you know what? I have shit to do. I need to get the fuck out of living with this man. I need to get out of this house. I need to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. And it just even made it even quicker that I had escalated my growth and lost my adolescence and innocence and all senses. So when I moved there, I just was miserable. I absolutely hated Orange County. I still hate Orange County, but I literally was like, oh, this is awful. And my dad was great, and he tried, but he just didn't know what to do with me. And at that age,
right.
God bless.
That's a critical age. Yeah, for for,
Absolutely.
boy, girl, but that's critical. So how long were you with your father?
I was there a year before he sent me to boot camp.
Are you serious? Boot camp?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was a lot. I was a force and what's so funny is to this day, I swear on everything I love, I've never done a drug in my life. Like I'm not even like I'm wild, but it was more of just like, you can't tell me anything. Like I want to do what I want to do. And he was just scared. Like he like didn't know what to do with me. And he was like, I don't think she's doing anything, but like she's also trying to stay out till 2 a.m. and she's trying to act like she's 20 and like I don't know what to do with her. So he sent me to my aunt who was actually going through chemo and going through a lot. She literally lived in the middle of nowhere in the woods of Texas.
Wow,
And that's where he sent me. And he was like, you guys figure this out. And from there, I like went to school there for about a year and I filed for emancipation as soon as I got there. And I ended up getting it. And so I came back home for my senior year of high school, back to the school with all my friends and everybody that I knew. And I was like, oh, like I've completely outgrown everyone and everything here. Like this is so weird. And so I started, I did like the early, I don't know what they call it, like early graduation, I guess.
Yes.
Like, I don't know, to like speed up the process. I was like, okay, how quickly can I get out of here with like the least amount of work?
Okay. Do we have 5 hours to go back over this?
I know, it's a lot.
So you're passed from one stranger to a second stranger.
Yeah.
Are you in communication or do you see your mother
No, I want nothing to do with her.
throughout all of that?
All of it. I didn't talk to her for years.
So I have to ask, you were alone, literally.
Yeah. Yeah. My aunt is like one of my best friends. Like my dad knew at a certain part, he was like, you need a woman to be with you at this age for sure. But also she's very blunt and harsh. We're very similar. Like the whole family is identical.
Okay.
So he was like, you're still gonna learn everything I want you to learn, and you're still gonna be able to take care of yourself different than most females based on who's raising you. And so she was still the best person looking back to be with for sure.
Do you feel like you did not have a childhood?
Absolutely. Yeah, without a question. I joke about it all the time. Like people talk about kids' movies or this or that, and I'm like, I don't know what that is. Like I didn't do any of that.
Cartoons?
So, not really.
Playing with toys, dolls?
Like my mom tells a story all the time that when I was 2 years old and I look at my son and I'm like, how did that even, like how? She was like, you used to get up and she would like leave everything down because she was pregnant with my sister and really sick at the time. She was like, you would get up, make your own cereal and turn the TV on and sit on the floor and watch TV. I was like, you're proud of that story?
Right.
Like, that's crazy.
Right.
And like looking at my 2-year-old, I'm like, I couldn't leave you alone for 5 minutes. Nonetheless, me be like asleep and you're making cereal. Like, God forbid I hear you open anything. I'm like running. So it's just a very, like, I mean, I don't understand. There should be like a aptitude test for having children. Like there needs to be some sort of like test to approve you to have a child, because it's honestly wild.
Yeah, I'm with you. I
Yeah.
think it should be much harder to have children.
It should be.
And much harder to get married.
I agree with that.
Oh,
Because I'll never get married. They'll be like, she fails. I'm like, thank God.
Never allow her to be married.
Never allow it.
Yeah, but no,
Yeah.
I'm with you. And I actually think it should be much easier to get a divorce.
Oh my! It was the worst thing I've ever done in my life, and it was longer than my marriage.
Okay. Well, we will talk about
Oh,
it. We will
God.
talk about it. But my I'm fascinated by this part of your story because I was unaware.
I don't think anyone knows my story. I've never talked about it.
Why do you feel like this is important to tell your story for the first time?
People have just asked me, and there's just no way to, like, how much time do you have? Like, so many people, I've heard this so many times, like, I want to know why you are the way you are. And I'm like,
Yes.
what does that even mean? What do you mean why I am the way I am? This is who I am. And it's like, but then when people start asking me more in-depth questions and I have answers, and then they're all even more confused, and I'm like, I don't know what's happening.
Yes.
I'm like, this is my story. Like, it's all I know.
One reason why it's so important is because there are many, many people who adore you. And I know this. Just when you walked in, I'm telling you, this doesn't happen to every guest
I'm
that comes in.
dying.
And so there are so many people who adore you. For them to know the trials that you went through, the storm that you went through, I think that the level of respect just increases.
Yeah.
And for those who maybe don't understand you, maybe question, why does she do certain things?
Well, yeah. I mean, you were like, well, where do we start? Which trauma reaction? But no, I think for me, the biggest reason why I never really talked about it is because I feel like a lot of people make excuses for the way that they act or where they're at in their life or whatever it is. And I just don't feel like, I don't like the victim role. I don't like to feel like, oh, well, because my childhood was shit, I can be an asshole. Like, can I cuss here?
Absolutely.
Oh, God, okay. I'm like, I cuss like a sailor. So I've always been so against that type of like mentality that I'm like, I'm not going to explain myself to you. Like, take it or leave it. And sometimes it's a harder pill to swallow because people are like, well, I'm just asking, like, why are you like that? But I think that for me, I was the whole like other spectrum of like, I have nothing to prove. I have nothing to say to you. Like, I don't care how you feel about me. And I put up a wall so much that like, you know, my partner didn't know stuff about me until we had a kid. Because I always felt like people would put me in this box like, oh, she's pretty. She had to sleep with someone to be here, or she had to do this, or she had to do that. And I don't move like that. But stereotypically, I could see why you think that. But I'm also not going to defend myself to whoever you are asking me this question. So I think I just kept it for so long that I was like so used to just not talking about it.
Not talking about it. But when you keep feelings and emotions for so long.
Oh, I go to therapy.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say.
Oh, yeah, no. Like twice a week.
but even at that age, so going back to 13.
Yeah.
It sounds like you had no one to go to, in essence, so you had to solve it yourself.
Yeah.
But then emotionally, what tends to happen is that's where you see avoidance. And I'm not going to say that you're an avoidant.
I probably am, but yeah.
But this is what happens is because with an avoidant, you say to yourself, okay, there's no one I can rely on.
Absolutely.
Other than myself.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I'm going to rely on myself. And that means I will not form an emotional attachment to others.
I'm very good at that. Yes. Which I have gotten better about, especially since I had my son. I like not relying on people. And I feel like I've kind of started to make this shift where I can have a little bit of emotional attachment and I'm able to kind of like, I guess my radar for people is a little bit better than it used to be, but I'm working on it. And I think that's one of like my bigger things where I'm like, I don't want to be this way for my child. I don't want him to be like that. Like, you're not in fight or flight. You're living a comfy cushion life. So we need to give you like all the love and all of the things with the structure. So it's like, I still have a lot of like personal internal work to do. But I think that in learning all of that, I've really like distanced myself from majority of people, especially the last 2 years. I've been like, and the show and everything that's unfolded, I'm like, wow, people are something else.
People are something else.
Like,
they are.
I thought it was bad before. This show brought out the ugliest of the ugly.
Oh yeah.
Like,
and I definitely want to unpack that
like
too.
the walls are like, they're up even more now, but then kind of down.
But my mind is still at you 13, Bre 13, because you are emotionally distant. Mm-hmm. And then
I was also angry.
You were angry.
I was very angry.
And then you file at 13 to emancipate yourself, which I've never heard of a 13-year-old filing for emancipation. So how do you even know how to do that? Like, and what does it mean to be emancipated from your parents?
Divorcing your parents. So basically I was like, you're either going to sign this or I'm taking you to court and I'm divorcing you. I can prove you're both unfit. Like, I was a whole force even then. So, at that time, my dad was like, let her go. She's going to be fine. He was like, she's fine.
And you were 16 when he said this?
No, I was probably 14.
You were 14?
14. By the time I came home, I was 15 and I was about to be able to have my car and my driver's license. And I graduated at 17. So it's a process.
You were on your own?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What becomes the vision for life? What are you thinking? What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish?
I had no idea. I had just moved back home And I met, oh my God, I forget her name right now. She was a huge personality, and her son introduced me to Nick Hogan, and that was my first boyfriend.
Nick Hogan was your first
That's my
boyfriend?
first boyfriend.
Oh
when
my
I was
gosh,
like
Hulk
16.
Hogan's son.
Yeah. I know. No, he's amazing, but
Yeah.
you know,
But you know, I mean, I've seen. I used to. They had a show. What was their show?
Hogan Knows Best.
Hogan Knows Best.
Yeah.
That was it. And
Yeah.
and Nick always looked cool.
He was cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he was the sweetest. He was so sweet. Like, all my other relationship trauma was after him. He was great.
He was cool.
Yeah, he was a sweetheart.
I'm curious. What about your social circle? So outside of Nick, like,
I didn't have any.
no close friends.
Not really. I mean, I did, but I was very like, they're at home with their families, and like I'm living a whole different life. And then when I met Nick, he had just gone through his really hard situation and had to go to jail and everything and got out. And he just was like, you should be doing something else. Like, you know, and I was still in high school. Like, he was my prom date, everything. Like, we were a whole show. And he just like, you need to be modeling. And I was like, I don't want to model. Are you crazy? And he was like, you need to model. Like, he literally forced me to go. And I got booked on like a Rockstar campaign and this. And then I was on UFC. And all of a sudden,
So he inspired you to do that.
all the way I was like, I wasn't even 18 yet. And like had fully put me into this world without me even realizing. And then I was like, I can make how much money? I'm not going back to the office. Like, I'm not doing that. And he like shifted my entire life.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I did not know that either. It was Nick Hogan that put you into modeling. He should have had a commission on
Right?
this.
I know. He's going to be like, I'm coming to collect after this for sure. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So you have that relationship. It sounds healthy,
Yeah, it was great.
but no other support.
No.
So you had still not.
I'm cool with my dad at this point and my aunt. But actually, right around that time, my sister was going to the same high school that I was going to. And she basically was like, if you think you're going to see your sister, then you're going to have a relationship with me and you're going to come around, like forced me into like being decent with her. So at that point, I was like, whatever. Because she was literally calling the school and telling them that she had to stay away from me.
Wow.
Like, it was just, I was like, we're at the same school. Are you crazy? Like, what's wrong with you? So finally, I was like, whatever, I'll play nice with you. And so I did that for a minute. And then, yeah, it's the same old stuff. But at that point, I was grown. And I was like, you have no control over me at this point. So
You're
it doesn't
living
even
on your
matter.
own.
Yeah.
And you think ultimately with your mother, it was that you really reminded her of your father.
Yes. But I think more so now, she's made a lot of comments over the years. And I think it's just that I'm living her dream life. And even at that time, I was living her dream life and I was doing everything I wanted to do. And I had the confidence to do things. And it was just like, I was a mirror of everything that she couldn't accomplish or wanted to do. And on top of the man that got away, it was a lot, I think. And, you know, especially then I was real quick at the mouth. So it was not good.
So you're saying your mother was jealous of you. That's how you felt.
Yeah, I guess. I hate to say that because it's like so corny to be like women are jealous of each other. Like I hate that for women, but I feel like, yeah, there's resentment when you're, especially now being a mom, I have a different look at the sacrifices that we have to, I don't want to say have to, but we have to for our kids. We make those choices. It's not like we don't choose to do them. But I don't think we understand the gravity of what we're signing up for and how much you lose yourself and what you give up. And, you know, you're willing to do anything and everything for your child. So you're last. And like, if you have a man, like, well, for me, he'd be last. But for her or whoever else, you know, she wasn't able to keep a man. She wasn't able to do X, Y, and Z. And it was just a constant thing with her. But I get now being a mom, like, I'm like, I miss my life, you know, like I miss I feel like I could be doing so much more, but I'm not going to do that at the cost of my son, you know? It should be more respectable. Like, men should respect us so much more instead of expecting. It's like, I don't owe you shit. You're supposed to be here with me. This narrative that women are supposed to just stay at home and give up everything that's important to them to raise children, I don't think is fair. But I do understand roles now. I do understand why two-parent households are ideal situations for most people because there's someone else there to pick up the pieces, you know? I have hired help who I absolutely love, and she's basically my wife at this point. I would die without her. But I understand it better. So now, like, looking back on being raised by her as a single mom and just all of the things, like, it just makes more sense.
It makes more sense.
Yeah.
It's good that you have that perspective now. Yeah. But at that point, you are beginning to model, and I would imagine you're beginning to make money.
Yes.
For the first time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because it seems to me when I think about a young Bre, you were
on it.
Money motivated.
Money, that was it.
Yeah.
Didn't care about anything else. I was like, y'all better move, because like I got money to make. If you're in my way, you're getting trampled. Yeah. So I was.
And what did money symbolize to you? Like, because money.
Freedom, because it was like I fought so hard to be free of all these people telling me what to do. I was like, I want to live. Like, and I know that my mom's never traveled outside the U.S. Like, she's never like really even traveled in the U.S. And I think there was so much there that I was like, I'm going to do the polar opposite of everything you are and have done. Like, what can I do that's going to make me feel free? Like, I want to experience culture and people, and like, I want to see everything that I can possibly see. And I'm not going to do that here. Like, I got to go. So money is the only way you can go there.
Wow. And you did it, because it feels like what modeling did for you is not only gave you money, but then it gave you all these new experiences.
Absolutely.
So you could travel.
And you're paid to travel, and they pay for your travel. So I was getting everything I wanted to do, honestly.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So it was great.
So at a certain point, I would imagine you and Nick Hogan do break up.
Yes.
So
yeah,
it sounds like it was a great relationship. So how did that end?
I outgrew him. I literally woke up one morning and made him breakfast, and we sat down, and I literally looked at him and I was like, I don't love you anymore, and I have to do more with my life, and like, you don't want to do that. And he wasn't very, he was dealing with a lot of demons from the tragedy that he went through. And I was like, I need to fly. Like, you're either jumping or you're not. And he just wasn't. And so I made that choice, and he's never talked to me ever again. I've never spoken to him ever again.
That day was the last day you talked to him?
Yeah, I never saw him again. I saw him one time when I was working in the clubs, and he literally saw me from across the room, turned around, and ran the other way.
Already.
I was like, and he hates me. Okay. Yeah.
Telling someone, look, I no longer love you, and I need to go on for me.
Yeah.
Some people could receive that and think, oh my gosh, how cold-blooded, how... But then others will say, no, that's someone respecting their boundaries.
Yeah.
That's someone who knows their self-worth.
Yeah.
So when you now reflect back and you look at that, would you have handled that any differently?
No, and in that moment, I say it a little bit more dry than it was. We were both crying. It was a whole thing. Like, I'm saying, but like, he was really understanding. He was very like, okay, you don't love me anymore? Well, shit, okay. And then, we just had to figure it out. But I think at the end of the day, he respected the fact that like, I didn't cheat on him. I didn't lie. I didn't get weird. I didn't make it toxic. Like, I was just very like, this is how I feel.
You were truthful.
Yeah. And I was like, and I don't want to hurt you, because you're like the sweetest human.
Yeah.
Like, I literally have never met a man so sweet in my life. Like, his dad and everything, like, they raised him great. Like, he's so sweet. So I was like, I'm not going to like hurt you and be mean to you. Like, that's not what my motive is at all. It's just more of like, I tried and it didn't work. You don't want to do it. So I need to use that energy for me.
Wow. So you use that energy for you?
Oh, yeah. And I went straight to the club.
Oh, did you? Are you serious?
I swear I got a job at the club the day I turned 21. Yeah. I heard the money was there. So that's the first place I went.
Okay. So at the club, what were you doing?
Bottle service.
Bottle service. Yeah. I guess it's the tips with bottle service, isn't it?
That's all that mattered. We don't even look at our normal pay. That's taxes. Yeah. The tips are crazy.
So bottle service in the club.
Yeah.
But different from the modeling you were doing.
Yeah, I was still modeling,
Okay.
but my thing was I wanted to buy a house. I wanted to live large. Like, I was like, I got to make it quicker. So like, I would do all the modeling stuff, but I would also work at the club, and then I would take any other gig that I could possibly get. So I just worked 24/7.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, what were you doing with your money? Because
Saving it.
Saving.
Yeah, besides traveling, I was saving it.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is where men started buying stuff, and I was like, perfect, you buy it. You pay for it.
Oh, really?
I was like, great, now I really won't spend any money.
All right. So men start, because I would imagine, your bottle service in the club.
Yeah.
A lot of guys are trying to talk to you.
Yes.
And then that's when they start trying to buy
Yeah.
your love.
Yeah. And I was like, you can't buy it, but you can. You can give me the money, but you can't technically buy
Right.
it. But yeah, sure.
What was some of the most lavish gifts?
Oh, I've had
that you
crazy.
received?
I got a Maserati.
No.
Yes. I got a trip to Bora Bora with all my girlfriends, like staying at the Four Seasons with like a whole thing. Like I've bags, flowers all the way up my apartment, up to the 6th floor, like crazy stuff.
Did you keep the Maserati?
For a minute. So then I was like, you know what? You gotta take this back. I don't like you.
You drove it for a week.
I was like, I'll drive it for a minute, but then I'm gonna give it back. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I've been engaged a couple times, all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So throughout that, did vision for life change at all?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
How so?
I found money. I was like, whoa, this is like, people really live like this. Like, I grew up like where, we did have a lot of celebrities' kids and stuff like that growing up. And like, we took a jet here and there and like whatever. But this was totally different. And I was like, oh no, I need this. So now I'm taking another step and I'm like, okay, how do I get here? And so the clubs.
Yeah. So now money, when you were 18 though, represented freedom to you. So at this point, what is like that excess money represent to you?
I mean, it's still a level of freedom, but it was like now I realized what nice things were and like what it costs to stay at this place versus this place. That we're talking about like a normal hotel to the Four Seasons. It's like I was like, oh, okay, well, this is $1,500 a night and this is $200 a night. So it just started all like, okay, I learned what a Birkin was. I had no idea. I started being like, what is a Louboutin? I don't know. Like I had no idea. And so it was a whole new world.
Wow. And you liked it.
Loved it.
You loved it?
Still love it. I'm never leaving. So no, it was like luxury is addicting. Like once you fly first class or private, you don't want to go back to coach. You don't want to like, that was the drive was like, I'm not going back. Like I'm doing this. I'm not going back. And so I just kept going.
Okay.
And I would find random hustles, whatever I could do. And that's just what I did and then lived how I wanted.
One thing that I think is important to even like stop and just say, okay, is that I think that the impression from a lot of people is that you are not this hustler,
Oh, no.
hard worker, right? This is, and so at 21, you are out here earning money.
Grinding.
And what are some of those entrepreneurial hustles?
I would say there were so many things, even in the modeling world. Like it wasn't just like, so you could do commercial, you could go and do like all the clothing for a website. I would do things like where I used to work for like Miller Lite and all the beer companies, and they would send you to these bars and you would get people to drink. Like I really got into like the sales side. And I'd be like, fine. I'd be like, we're taking shots. Like, I would just like, I would make that happen. And they'd be like, if you can get them to buy X, Y, and Z, we'll give you this. And I'm like, done. And I would just figure it out. And from there, people saw that like, I was like, just tell me what to do. And so I would just end up in the most random situations, like poker games, like booking girls. Like I could do anything at that point. And they were like, everybody likes you. Like, they would plug me into all kinds of like stuff I had no business doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you were doing it and you started to realize that. What was your skill?
People, which is weird because now I don't like people. But but my skill was I read people really well and I chameleon really well if I choose to. Okay. So I'm very good at observing people and understanding what makes you tick. And like, so for sales, for instance, bottle service.
So would you say that those skills, you were developing many skills, right?
Yes.
So body language skills,
Absolutely.
communication, understanding psychology, male psychology in particular. And so if you were to almost unpack that as a masterclass, what would you say the top lessons that you had learned at that moment? Because you're doing something extraordinary.
I think I just wasn't impressed, and they could tell that I genuinely did not care. Like, I was just like, that's cute. What are men buying alcohol for?
The women.
The women.
Yeah.
So it's not hard to figure out if you really sit down and think about it. Like, you're like, 1 + 1 = 2.
You're like, this is so basic.
It's so basic, but people just don't think like that for some reason.
How much did you get? How much was the tip in
So
Vegas?
that was, well, this was so in Vegas, $1 million. Yeah, I swear to God, there was this guy. I
no.
swear to you, you can look him up. Everyone talks about him. Joe, we called him the whale. He parachuted into Wet Republic. He would literally set it on fire. They would let him do whatever he wanted to do, and he spent $1 million every time he came to Las Vegas. Every single time. He's now in jail, but every single time he came and did it, and we would all be like, and that I was his server every single time.
Your tip
Yeah.
was $1 million.
Keep in mind, this is the whole crew in Vegas, and they cap us at a certain amount, so there was that. The casino made majority of that.
Okay.
But yeah,
Same
guy.
You did the same strategy.
Always. Like, people were bum rushing his table and doing services, and I wanted nothing to do with it because I also knew he was going to be rowdy, and I don't get down like that. Okay. So I'm not into the whole like, oh my God, hi, like I don't. No, thank you.
No.
And so I let the girls go over and do their thing. And he was like, well, why isn't she waiting on my table? And I was like literally standing at the bar talking to the bartender. And it's just men. Man, they want what they can't have. I'm not interested in you.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it's like, I wasn't even trying. I genuinely was like, my feet hurt. It's hot. I'm going to have a Red Bull and stand in the well. And somehow I got sucked into being waitress.
Okay. Get $1 million tip.
Yeah.
Get 150. You're breaking records for tips.
Yeah.
I would think I would just continue doing this as a career.
Yeah.
No?
No. Everything has a shelf life. I learned really young from my mom to use my looks, right? So that was kind of the main thing, was like, you can get so far using your looks. It's what you do with that, obviously. So I said, I can only use my looks till I'm like maybe 30. Like at that point, I got to figure it out. So I worked in the clubs until I was probably 26, 25, somewhere around there.
Okay.
And then I was just tired of it. It was just too hot, drunk people. It was a lot, like very draining. And like, given I work 6 months out of the year, 2 days a week, like it's really easy to get addicted and not ever want to leave. It's the easiest money you've ever made. But I was just like, yeah, I'm bored. I'm over this. Like, I've made my contacts. Like, it's ran its course. I need to like do something else. And so I took all of my clients and everything I learned from that, got my real estate license, and just like moved back to LA. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to figure it out. And I was getting married at that time. And so I just made like I make big shifts. Yeah. I'm kind of like, okay, done, next.
All right. You said that you learned from your mother how to use your looks. Mm-hmm. We could spend a moment on that.
Yeah.
Because
she's going to kill me when she sees this. It's just going to be a hit on me after this.
I'm sorry, Mom. I had to go back to this.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's a big statement.
Yeah.
Right? So how did you learn from your mother to use your looks?
Well, I mean, watching her, for one, but it's also, I think that especially during my generation, which I feel like was the last generation to really think like this, was that you're taught that we're supposed to make men happy. Like, you're supposed to grow up to be a wife. Like, you're supposed to learn to cook and clean and wait on him and this and that. And then being Italian and all of that, like, there's a lot in there that was like, you're supposed to do these things. You're not supposed to work. You're supposed to do this. And I was like, sounds awful. Like, I don't want to do this. My mom like would torment me as a kid, like embarrass the shit out of me. Like, she would like run around naked, and like, I had like a lot of instances that were just like when my girlfriends were over and just like uncomfortable, or like birthday parties. And after that, I was very like, I don't want to be sexy. I don't want to see, like, I didn't like any of the behavior, like the way that like men would approach her when we would like be with her, which is like so inappropriate, like things like that I was just like, men are disgusting. Like, I hate men. They're so gross. Like, and from there, I kind of be like, oh, okay. But then I would watch her whole body language shift, and the way that she would talk, and the way that she would all of a sudden be like this and like that, and like all of the, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with her? Like, what is happening? And at that age, you don't understand that she's flirting. Like, you're like, what is that? And the next thing we know, I got a new present. We're going somewhere. It's this, it's that. And you started being like, oh, okay.
This is how
she's getting it. And I was like, all right, this is interesting. And then as I got older, obviously I put it together. But for a minute, I was like, I don't understand what you're doing. You look crazy. But you know.
But so that flirting,
Yeah.
you realize that if you were to flirt, you could get something in return. There was a return.
Essentially,
I mean, you were doing full analysis, like not just on your mother, but it seems like everyone.
Everything.
What was your view of yourself, like in terms of body image and how you looked?
I've always been super cocky and confident. I've always been like that. I don't know why. And even still, I had a nose job and I've done work and people are like, oh, you're insecure. I'm like, no. I just know that I can go from a 10 to a 20. Like, why not? I can. But at that time, my mom was very into our looks. So I think growing up, she's just always kind of, like, we were always super athletic. Like, I had a full 6-pack as like a 6-year-old, like working out. Like, it was crazy. Right. And like, we had like long, beautiful hair and she would just like do the most to keep us like beautiful kids. Okay. And, I think growing up like that, and especially getting into the industry where I was doing stuff with Disney and I was doing commercials and like everyone's like, you're pretty. And you're like, oh, I'm pretty. It's like what we try to tell parents now to tell your kids, like, you set the tone. You tell them. Don't let the world tell them what they are, Mine was the opposite. I grew up with other people telling me. And like, I never thought twice about it.
So let me lean into it.
Yeah.
Now,
I can always find the opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like at certain points it was about survival for you. But then as you developed these skills, you became confident.
Absolutely.
In your ability to read, communicate, flirt, you're confident in yourself. And then you just continued to use that, right, to climb, in essence.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that you got married.
Yeah.
But before we get into that.
God bless. Okay.
I am thinking, you at 26, you don't want to be married.
Yeah,
Marriage is not on your radar.
No, I had gone back and forth with Nick for a minute, and I was like, I had a really, really close girlfriend of mine, and she was literally like, you deserve better. Like, I want better for you. Like, I want you, like, why don't you date? She's like, you deserve the white picket fence. She felt like I deserved to have those things, even though I didn't know if I wanted them.
Okay.
And she was like, just try, like, give it a go, And like, when I met my ex-husband, he was like, we were really good friends before we dated. So, which we should have stayed that way. But it was like, we were so close and we were like a little tripod. Like, everyone would make fun of us because you would never see me without seeing one of them.
Really?
But especially her. We lived together. We worked together. Like, we went out together. Like, holidays we're spending together, like, always. So this was just her kind of giving me that extra push to be like, he fucking proposed to you, bitch. Like, give him a shot. And I was like, I don't think this is a good idea. And she was like,
so you knew?
I knew it wasn't a good idea.
It wasn't a good idea.
No, I knew it wasn't. And it was just, I wanted to see the best in him. And I know to this day, Johnny is very capable of being his best if he chooses to be.
But even at the beginning of that proposal, right?
Yeah.
Were you against the institution of marriage or just being married with Johnny?
Both. Both, but definitely being married with Johnny. No, it was the institution. I had never seen that work. I don't know anyone that's worked. And I just was like, why do I have to do this? Like, why am I being forced to do something? Like, I have a big problem with being told what to do.
I see.
It does not work for me, especially I'm getting better. But at that age, I was like, hell no.
Yeah.
So it was a lot for me to like make such a commitment. And I was like, well, what if I don't like you in a year? Like, what if like I have a baby with you and I'm stuck with you? Like, I started thinking about all these things and I'm like, oh God, this is awful. And he showed himself real quick, so that was fine.
I think that especially for everyone watching in the UK, right? Yeah. You might not know Johnny Manziel, right? But in the States, especially someone who loved American football, he was actually Johnny Football.
Johnny Football.
He was one of the biggest names in football.
Yep.
So if we could just speak about that context, because that shapes.
Yeah, he's he set a record for being the youngest Heisman winner ever. Like, they normally wouldn't even allow you to be eligible for that. And like, he is a mind-blowing football player. He really is an amazing athlete. Like, he was also picked up to play professional golf and baseball.
Oh, wow.
Like, Padres. I don't know sports. I think it's Padres.
Yeah, baseball.
He was picked up for that. Like, he is a phenomenal athlete. Like, it is insane. So all of that to go to waste is very sad.
Many people might not know his story.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
But so when you met him though, he was in the NFL?
No,
Or
he was already out.
He was already out.
He was already out.
Oh, okay.
That's why I think it's so funny when they're like, she left him when he didn't get back. I'm like, I picked him up off the floor, actually, but that's okay.
See,
it's fine.
I did not know this. Yeah. So if you can just explain what happened.
So basically, he was at the height of his career. He was killing it. Johnny struggles from a lot of mental illness. I mean, he's kind of talked about it, but like there's a lot that he doesn't necessarily have control over, I feel like. And you know, when we got together, the partying and all of this stuff and like the self-medicating, I thought was just like a kid that got money and just got the new life. And I see that all the time, especially working in the clubs. Like you see people being like, oh shit, and they lose themselves, right? And I'm like, okay, maybe he's just having a moment. He's a kid, new money, whatever. And so at this time, he had just gotten dropped from Cleveland Browns. And then he had a altercation with his girlfriend at the time, which was one of the leading causes to him leaving or being cut. I don't really know what happened. Only they know what happened, but did not go well for him.
Okay. And
basically, he just got worse after he was cut, and he never went back. Essentially,
is this when? Because I've always heard that he went on this $5 million bender.
He did.
How do you, I mean, I'm just...
Well, here's the honest truth, and he's talked about it, so I feel okay to say it, but like, you know, his plan was to spend all of his money and kill himself. And that's when I met him. And I was like, what are you? I literally would take money from him and like shove him in a room and I put it in the safe and I'm like, everybody get the fuck out. Like I was that person. And so it was like, that was why we were friends. Cause I was like, listen, I know what my job is and to spend money, but like this is just gross. Like you're just taking advantage of somebody that is literally like at their absolute lowest and y'all are just along for the ride.
Right.
Like,
what do you see in him though? Because because I think many people think you were there at the height of the NFL.
Yeah. Little did they know he lived on my couch with me and my roommate in my house, but that's fine.
But this is,
yeah.
I mean, this is
I just don't like to trash him. Like, I haven't talked a lot about him or our story because I don't want to make him feel any type of way. You know, like we're so cool.
So from a positive, like, what was it that you saw in him that gave you hope?
Johnny has a good side to him. He does. He was raised with a fucking amazing, beautiful family. Like, he has a good heart. If he would have stayed on the meds, he would be thriving, but he doesn't want to. And a lot of people like have a hard time accepting like I have to take this to be okay or I have to take this to be whatever. And I think that a lot of it was like he felt like it was taking away his personality and his like all of these things, which I find to be excuses, but I do hear a lot of people say that. There's a great side to him. There really is. It's just you have to dig a lot to find it. Okay. And, you know, I think that what really brought us close was he was in a really bad place and it just over time we just became really close and then somehow ended up dating. But
and then you started dating him and then he proposes.
He proposed to me in like 2 months.
And so at that point you feel as if he's not the right one. You're not even down with the institution of marriage.
Yeah.
But yet someone who has been so defiant and willing to say no.
I know. Yeah.
Why did you say yes?
I was like, maybe I'm stopping myself from being happy, or maybe I'm like telling myself this because it didn't work from what I know, but maybe like, I don't know. Like she was just in my ear being like, you deserve this. Like try, what does it matter? Like if it doesn't work, get divorced. Like she, you know, it's just like, fuck it. And I was like, whatever, I don't care. Like what difference does it make? It's a piece of paper. And like, it made a world of difference. But you know, it's like, I didn't have a wedding. I didn't do any of that. Like that's how much I was like, and I love to throw a party.
Yeah.
And so I was like, no. He was like, we can go to the courthouse. I'm like, okay.
So you went to the courthouse?
Yeah.
Got married?
Yeah.
And how was marriage?
Awful. Hated it. Hated every part of it.
From day one?
Oh my God, yeah. No. Like I just feel like everything changed with him too. I think it was that security of like, oh, she's stuck. She can't go anywhere now. Like it felt like that. And it felt like all of a sudden it was this expectation of like what I was supposed to do. And I'm like, I'm going to work. You don't even have a job. What do you mean? You clean the house. You do the dishes. I'm paying the rent. Like you're living in my house, driving my car. Like I was like, no, we're not doing that. Like, So all of that stuff kind of made me even more resentful because I was like, hold on a second. And then this is when he was really struggling with his addiction at the time. So he would go missing and I'd have to track him down and I'd drag him out of places and I'd end up in the hospital. And it was just like, I'm done with this shit. Like, I was like, I can't do it anymore. So that's why everyone was like, oh, she left him after a year because he didn't get back. And I'm like, no, I used to take him literally myself to practice and took him to Canada. And like, we had meetings with teams that were like, if you could do 1 year here, sober, good, we will bring you back. Like, you can come back to the league. And he just could not.
He couldn't do it, yeah. Because I think what folks in the UK need to know is that when a lot of people, professional athletes, leave the NFL, they go to the Canadian Football League.
Yes,
to try to play.
Yeah, and then hopefully you can get to the NFL. Yeah.
So that was the plan, is he was trying to go to the CFL.
Apparently that was my plan. It wasn't his plan. But yeah, because he was not following the plan.
Wow.
But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
At what point did you realize you had to leave?
Oh, real quick. It was like probably 6 months in because we were only married for a year. And I was going back and forth because I was still working in LA. And he was going missing, not answering his phone. This is when I was like, I had the location on his phone. Like, I was like, wait, and not because I'm crazy, but not that type of crazy. Like, I was like genuinely worried that I would come home one day and he would be dead. Like, and I'd be like, where are you? Like, I don't give a fuck where you're going, but like, I need to know that like you're good. And I couldn't get a hold of him, and and I was like, this is too much. It's like having a child that I didn't birth. Like, this isn't fun. I don't want to date you. I definitely don't want to sleep with you acting like your mother. So it just became very like, I was like, you know what? I signed up for this. I have to deal with it.
Okay.
Let me just manage him, figure it out. And then it got to a point where he was like blatantly disrespecting me and out with women and doing the most and pictures. And then I was like, oh yeah, fuck you. I was like, I am out. And literally I was like, that's it. Your shit's outside. I will never speak to you again. And I didn't talk to him for probably 2 years. And then, and he tried over, I'm so sorry, whatever. And we eventually like made amends and we're cool now. And he literally came on the show with me. Like, we're fine now. But it was just a big lesson for me, another reassurance of why I only put energy into myself and that you can only do so much for other people. And so I was like, I can lead you to water, but if you don't drink, I'm not going to drown you. You can do it yourself. Yeah. So it just kind of was what it was at that point.
When that relationship ended, divorce, because it seems like, you filed?
Yes.
How long did it take?
A whole another year and a half.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't sign. And to think that I have to wait another 6 months, they're like, oh, if you can't find him after 6 months, then we'll just give it to you. And I'm like, why don't you just give it to me now? Like, I can't buy a house. I can't get a car. I can't like do anything. Like, I can't get a business loan. Like, I have to have this man sign off and get half of my stuff. Like, this is crazy.
Oh, well, for him to get half of
Yes, they wanted me to pay spousal support. I said, and this is the best part that cracks me up. I hired this attorney who was the worst attorney ever. And he checked off on the box that I was asking for spousal support. And then it went viral that she's like, look at him coming. I said, first of all, what money? But also, how dare you? And then I lose it on my attorney. And he like came out and said, that was my mistake. I'm sorry. And they're like, oh, of course her attorney comes out and says that. And I'm like, what are the odds that you just did that to me when he's coming? Well, he didn't, but he could have come after me essentially as the breadwinner while we were married. So I was like, this is insane.
That is a wild story.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
And where I'm completely with you is on, you should have been able to get a divorce. Yeah, this needs to change. I mean, there's no fault divorce.
No.
But even no fault divorce can still take 6 months or more.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
And it cost me money, a lot of money. And I'm like, I shouldn't have to pay money to leave you. I should just be able to be like, I'm done. Sign off.
Yes.
And just move on with your life. Because the other thing is, these divorces cause so much trauma and stress to people. There's women that like they're losing their whole life and they don't even know where to start. And then they're dealing with a divorce. They're dealing with all of this. Like, for what?
Was this also the first time that you were dealing with the publicity and emerging as a public figure?
Yeah, probably. I think that there was a lot more heat on it, especially because everybody was a Johnny fan. So it was like a fuck Bre thing. And I was like, I'm not even like, what did I do? Like, now I'm the bad guy because I didn't stick around to
do it.
do it. Like,
You know what's so interesting about this is because, you know, I'm a massive football fan. I should say American football.
I was going to say American or soccer.
Both. It's not soccer.
Oh my God.
I
get so
football.
confused.
It's
I'm like,
football.
this football or this football?
But I now distinctly remember this. It's actually hitting me right now.
Okay.
And I do believe the perception is you were the villain.
Yeah, of course. I'm always the villain.
Yeah.
That's my story. Yeah.
But did you feel like you were now?
Oh, I was super upset about it, especially because I had done so much for him and I had like genuinely cared about him so much. And I was like, I made my entire life about you and like helping you get better and giving you another chance and like doing so many things that were against what I told myself I would never do again.
Right.
And then to have the entire world tell me that I'm the asshole.
Yes.
I was like, and on top of that, I never really spoke about why we got a divorce. I still really haven't. And so I just let people think whatever they want to think and I don't really care. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm the bad guy. All right. He knows. And that's why he will never say a bad thing about me.
Yeah.
So
is that something that you're comfortable in just giving the category, maybe not the details?
oh no, it's cheating. I mean, it eventually came out that he was cheating, but he was just blatantly disrespecting me. And I was like, you're sure as fuck not going to live in my house on my dime when I've given up everything to help you and then disrespect me and have these girls message me crazy and all of this. I was like, absolutely not. This is a disrespect thing after how much I've given to you as a person. So no, it's unacceptable.
Okay.
And that was it.
So you were gone.
Out.
What's really intriguing me about this is that you knew your self-worth then. Mm-hmm. You knew it in that first relationship with Nick Hogan. Mm-hmm. Where do you think that came from?
I don't know. I swear I've just always been like this. I don't know. I did see my grandma leave my grandpa, and I used to always be like, why did you leave with nothing? You should have taken him for everything. And I think just hearing her be like, I had to. And I was like, ew, you don't have to. Like, but she was like, not in my time. You had to. You had to stay.
You had to stay.
So I think that was probably more where I was like, I'm going to stay true to me for you and for women that need to do that because we don't have to be here, especially now. We fought for our right to work, right? So now I'm working. Like, you can't stay because I have to for you to supply food and shelter and all those. It's not those times. Like, now I can choose what I want to do.
Yes, and you chose.
Oh, I sure did.
I hope you won't mind that we're taking a quick break from this conversation to talk about my show sponsor, Shopify. So many of you who listen to this show every week also run your own small businesses or side hustles. And we all know that these days, having a business without a website is almost impossible. But getting an online store up and running isn't always an easy or quick task. Unless you're using Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to help you start, run, and grow your business. Shopify simplifies everything so you can sell online and through your social media channels. And all of their templates are customizable, so you can explore thousands of different designs to find the one that best represents your brand. You can even leverage their tools without having to learn new skills in design or coding. If you've been looking for a solution, Shopify is the answer. Visit shopify.co.uk/needtotalk to enjoy a £1 per month trial period. That's shopify.co.uk/needtotalk. What if going on a date wasn't just about finding the one, but instead about discovering something unexpected? After all, a great date could lead you to finding the best pizza in town or sharing a laugh over a new activity. You might even meet someone who shifts your perspective in a surprising way. Tinder, who sponsors this podcast, wants to bring the joy back to dating so that it doesn't feel like another task to complete, because that pressure to get it right can really take the fun away. Let it go and see where your next date takes you. Whether it leads to a new friend, an entertaining story to add to the plot, or the start of something special, Tinder is designed for every type of connection. Wherever it takes you, it starts with a swipe. Download Tinder today and see where your next date might lead. have you started real estate as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I was just doing like little things here and there. And then probably 2022, I sold Ben Simmons' house. And then I went on from there.
Okay.
Like doing big deals. Like I did like leases and whatever else before.
It seems like to me, you fell into real estate because you had all of these incredible contacts.
Yes.
You knew you had these skills around
Yep.
people skills and communication skills.
Yeah.
It feels like real, especially luxury real estate is the perfect fit.
Absolutely.
So you just kind of fell
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
All right.
Basically. And because when I worked in the clubs, like clients would come in from Europe, they come in from wherever, and they'd be like, oh, we need a house in LA. Like I'd meet them in Vegas, but they'd be going to LA. And I'd be like, oh, okay, I got somebody there. And over time I was like, why am I sending people and not making money on this? And I was like, how do I make money on this? So then I was like, okay, I can get my license, and then I can do, if it's a, $50,000 a month house, you're still getting commission on that.
Yes.
So, 3 months, whatever they sign for, you're still getting a couple $1,000s at bare minimum. So I was like, no, this has to go back into my pocket. And then that's kind of how I started it. But then when I wanted to make the shift, I was like, okay, I need much bigger money than leases. Like
This is the story of your life. I need more.
I need more
need
always.
more.
And which is kind of a bad thing. But like, I'm like, if I can do it. So like, I'm going to do it. Because there's a lot of people that can't do it and don't have the opportunity. So I'm going to take every single one of them.
But can we speak about this? Because in this research, I was doing a ton of research, and I saw that roughly 63% of real estate agents are women. However, in terms of real estate executives, especially in the luxury space, very, very small percentage are represented in terms of women. I mean, there's a million reasons as to why that is.
Yeah.
But why do you believe that is that way today?
I believe it's a boys' world. Men have more opportunity. They have more immediate respect. They are the ones that the women are not going to be threatened by. We always get that like, oh, well, she's just a girl. Like people downplay it and they don't give you the credit that you deserve, especially if you're attractive. And it's just like this boys' club that is like impenetrable. And that was my main focus. I was like, how do I get in here? I was like, let me find my place. So when everyone was like, oh, she's a hoe or she's this, like I was with the boys because I was a part of the boys. I wasn't like, the hoe friend that they brought with them. Like I really made a name for myself and I was respected by the men to be able to play with the big boys. And they were all trying to bully me. These were very, very big agents in LA, like top of the top that most people would be like, I don't want to piss them off. Let me just say yes and give her a piece. And I was like, fuck no.
Wow. And this is your first deal?
Yeah. I did not care. I said, no, you're not. This was $500,000
in commission.
in commission.
How,
You will have to kill me for this.
can you say what was the listing? What was
It was 17.5.
17.5 million
Yes.
was the cost of the home.
Yes.
$500,000 in commission.
Yes. I said, you're going to pry it out of my dead hands because you're not getting it. I'm never giving it to you. I've worked my ass off for this. This is my client. This is my friend. He trusts me. Absolutely not. And they bullied me till the last day of escrow. They were like, we'll get her to fold. Good luck.
So 2021, first real estate deal.
Yeah.
$500,000, right, in commission. You do very well on commissions and tips.
Yeah.
This is for
My
sure.
thing.
This
Yeah,
is for sure.
definitely.
So this is 2021, but now 2022, you welcome Legendary.
Yeah.
All right. So now I want to talk a lot about motherhood because
Okay.
this is clearly what shaped you.
Yes.
But we have to talk about your relationship
Okay.
with your son's father.
Okay.
Because this seems to be the top.
I'm like, wait, let me readjust.
Get ready. Get
I'm like-
comfortable.
I'm like, okay,
Get
where do we
comfortable.
start?
Get comfortable because this seems to be a topic that millions upon millions upon millions of people are curious about. And I would love to set the record straight in so many areas because I'll see I'll see people comment.
Oh, yeah. The
And I'll see people post a video, Bre, this. And what's interesting too is a lot of it is towards you
Yeah.
and what you're doing wrong,
Yeah, of course.
right?
Yeah.
And how you're steering your child wrong.
yeah.
But before we get into the motherhood piece, let's just talk about you and Nick.
Okay.
When did, and this is a different Nick, this is a Nick Cannon instead
Dead.
of
Yeah.
Nick
Okay.
Hogan. Yeah. When did you meet Nick Cannon?
So I met him like right when I started working in the clubs.
So you met him, there was a friendship.
No, we were immediately like went on our first date like that
Oh, wow.
night.
Okay.
Yeah, he was like, "Do you want to go to dinner?" I was like, "You want to go to dinner with me?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay, I guess." Like, and I didn't really know anything about him like at this point, because keep in mind, I didn't have much of a childhood. I didn't watch a lot of TV. I didn't really know a lot of things or people. And I had this amazing friend. His name is Davo. And I tell him all the time, he's the reason my son is here and I love him to death. And he was like, "I have somebody you got to meet. You got to meet him." And we called him the celebrity babysitter at the time. And he was like in the clubs and he worked for the SBE group at the time. And he was like, "You got to meet him. You're going to love him. You got to do this show." And I was like, "I don't know about this. I don't know about this show." Like, because they were all comedic, but they were, especially at that time, they were a lot more raw and a lot more for it. I was like, I don't think I want to do this show. I don't need them coming for me. But anyways, we went to the show that night. I met Nick. We literally went to dinner that night, and then
That was it?
that was it.
That was it. So
Yeah.
what was it? Because I think, what was it about Nick? Because I think a lot of people say, oh my God, like this guy, Nick Cannon, he's had some incredible partners, should
Yeah.
we say, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I see people joke, like, well, what is it about Nick Cannon? Seth, what is it about him?
Nick is the most like compassionate, like sweet, kind. Like he's so good at communicating, and like, you know, I get frustrated when he came out and said like, he's like, "I'm a narcissist." I'm like, okay, relax. Like, you're a little full of your shit, but you're not really like the true traits of a narcissist. But some will argue different, so I'll stay out of that. But
Okay.
I feel like he wants to make you happy. He taught me that I don't need to be toxic. I don't need to yell at you. I don't need to pick a fight with you. I don't need to like balls to the wall. Like, and he doesn't respond well to that at all. So I learned to be like, okay, you did X, Y, and Z. I don't like it. What are we going to do about this? And he knows that my tact is not there. So he's helped me over the years try to like figure out how to communicate. But it was very like, it's a very different relationship. Like even to this day, like, yeah, we get into it here and there about stuff or like parenting stuff or whatever, but I've never fought with this man.
Interesting.
Like I've had one big fight with him ever. And that's it. And like, it's just so healthy and normal, and people think that it's not because of the surrounding factors, but I don't involve myself in surrounding factors. I involve myself in my own life, and the kids are welcome into my life and our life, and that's where I draw the line.
So when people say surrounding factors, I think they're thinking about the non-monogamy.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the relationship too, is this a topic of conversation or not?
I mean,
at
Nick's
all?
always been a playboy. Everybody knows that. Like, he's always been that way. And I think that was kind of why before I got with Johnny and when we stopped talking and all of that was because I wasn't sure that I didn't want to give the white picket fence a try. You know, I wasn't really sure what the hell I wanted. I was like, who am I? What am I doing? I reinvented myself 1,000 times. Like, let me figure it out. So
Right.
I did take a step back from Nick, and I did get with Johnny, and I was like, oh, this is not what I want. So then I kind of ended up naturally coming around Nick full circle again. It wasn't like a, hey, I'm single, you know? So I was like, you know what? Out of everyone I've ever been with, this is the most me that I get to be.
Interesting.
And that's what I loved about him the most is he allows you room to be you. And he says it all the time. I'm going to always trust you're going to be you. And if he does disrespectful shit, it's just him being Playboy Nick. Like he's not intentionally going out of his way to be nasty or, you know, any of those things that a lot of men do in relationships. Like I have never seen that with him.
That's
ever.
fair. That's fair.
So
Now it's interesting because you're saying he's Playboy Nick, right?
I always call him that. Yeah. Yeah.
And you said you knew this.
Yeah.
When even after your divorce, you came back, you knew this.
Yeah.
Right. So does that mean, do you ever, because this is me genuinely curious about non-monogamy.
Okay.
Is because I'm in a monogamous marriage. And I think, okay, in order for non-monogamy to work, there needs to be a high level of communication.
Yes.
A high level. So did you communicate early on, like, okay, here's what our relationship is going to look like? Was there discussion?
Yes and no. It's more of like, you know, I'm not going to ever be able to give you the white picket fence, but this is what I'm willing to do. This is what's going to make you happy. Like, I can always communicate with him and tell him, I want more time. I want this. I want to go here. I want to do this. Like, And he's like, okay. It's literally that simple. So I don't think that we necessarily set any sort of like structure per se around how we were going to move. But I would like to think in our entire relationship, we've really been very thoughtful of each other and how we move and what we do, and really try not to cause any issues. But I mean, again, relationships have ups and downs, and when there's other people involved, it just
and there are other people involved.
Yeah.
So are you then aware of other partners before the other partner?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I'm not like checking your following and seeing where you're going and asking who this girl is and all of that stuff. I'm kind of like I see this. Is this a situation? Like, what are we doing here? And that's if I even choose to bring it up, honestly. But he's been decent about like, obviously I know the kids are coming. I know all those things, but I really try to just mind my own because it's not something that truly bothers me. So why am I spending my energy and my time talking about it and asking you questions about it and making this whole thing up if I don't really care? I don't really see the point. I'm not threatened because I know what my relationship is. And I know that no matter what, you will never have with anyone else what you have with me. So I'm just not like, oh, well, is she prettier than me? Like, what am I going to ask you? I just don't. As long as you're honest with me and whatever, if I don't know, we haven't really like crossed anything that we'd have to like.
Is there truthfully, level of jealousy?
I think I've gotten jealous about like maybe, I'm trying to think, maybe like holidays. Holidays are hard, right? Yeah. I'd be like, okay, well, if you're going to do this, can you take Ledgy? And it's not for me. I'm not jealous. Say they go on a trip and I'm like, well, that would have been nice. Couldn't you have just brought Ledgy with you guys? Like, I'm looking more out for him per se. And I just really, because I care and I want him to have the relationship with his siblings. And I know at some point Nick will be able to take the kids and do what he wants to do with just the kids and make it more of like a family unit. They're just young right now, so they don't really interact as much. Right. But I think that's the only thing that I'm like, I just want to make sure that I'm keeping the door open and that everyone involved is happy. And so our kids can have a relationship, because you don't have to like me. We don't have to have a relationship. I don't need to at all. But I want you to know that I genuinely love and accept your kids and they're welcome in my home. And like, I do gift baskets for every season and I'm like presents and birthdays. And I'm like, this is from Legendary. Like, this isn't from me. So I just want to make it to where there is never an issue between the kids. Right, exactly. First and foremost, know?
And that point that you just made is a question that I see comes up all the time, right? Yeah. Everyone is like, okay, are all the ladies, are all the women, are they all cordial? Do they all get along?
I think we need to.
And I was thinking, so there's five. So Nick has children with five women, right?
Yeah.
5 different women. So is there a conversation? Is there?
I've been cool with majority of the women. I mean, obviously there's emotions involved and I can't help how other people feel. But like, if I'm invited, if you are okay with me being around, like, I will happily bring Legendary. I will come and say hi. I will drop a gift. I will leave him and I will come back. Like, I don't need to like stay and ruin your time. Like, you guys all be together. But I want to make it as easy and as pleasant as possible so that you don't feel uncomfortable with your child around me or around my home and with my kid. Okay, so that's my main thing, where I'm like, I don't want it to either be where other people have more children. He feels like, well, I have to do this here and I can't do this here. Like, I want to make it as easy as possible for the kids. Because for me personally, I don't give a shit.
I hear you.
I'm like, I'll go on my own trip.
So does this relationship allow you to have other relationships?
If I choose to, yeah. I'm not in a place that I want to deal with anyone or anything. I'm barely dealing with myself and my kid. I'm like, literally, please, God, I just want to be alone on a beach with a margarita. And that's all I want. Like, I couldn't even fathom dealing with another human right now.
Gotcha. But you could, though.
I could. Yes, absolutely.
And that would mean just having a conversation with Nick.
Absolutely.
And keep the communication.
I'm sure you wouldn't like it, but, I can do what I want to do. I just don't. I'm too tired.
Yeah.
There's too much going on. Maybe in a few years.
Yeah. But okay, so last question on this.
Yeah.
Unless you want to dispel anything else on this, is that, so I'm going back to the communication,
okay.
right? Is that, so I can imagine, and you just said it, right? that he would feel some kind of way. He'd feel
Probably.
Maybe a little jealous, a
Yeah.
little upset.
Yeah.
Right.
Y'all are hypocritical.
Yeah, very, very.
Yes. Yeah.
So then, how is it then okay for him to maintain these relationships, but not okay for you to do it?
It's not. It's not okay. 1,000% is not. But I mean, in our past, I did do that. So, It's not that I won't or I can't. It's that I choose not to, especially at this moment, and especially with like where we're at in our life and with my son, and that I just really, really don't want to deal with another man for a very long time. And I'm happy in my relationship. Like, I'm happy with my family unit, and I know people think I'm crazy, and maybe I am, but I'm fine.
On the non-monogamy front, right?
Yeah.
I think that the latest data is 11% of folks in the West, in the UK and the US, are experimenting with non-monogamy.
Yeah.
1 out of 5 have been in a open relationship. And this is probably no surprise, but 1 out of 3 men would be open.
Of course. Of course they would. Yeah.
To experimenting.
But listen, there's a lot of women that love women as well. So, we can't just, it's not always just about them. So I think that's another thing too. And a lot of women are embarrassed and they don't talk about it, or they feel shamed, or they feel like, again, they're supposed to get married to a man and have kids. And like, I don't necessarily believe in that. I think you should be with whoever you want to be with and whoever you love or are attracted to. So I don't think that, it should be so frowned upon. Like, all these years people have been swinging and they've been doing all these things that people don't talk about because it's shameful, or you're supposed to have this unity of marriage. And so people are making it this like dirty, weird thing versus like, some people just don't want to be with one person. If you want to date a man, if you want to date a woman, if you want to date 5 people, I feel like you should be able to do whatever you want to do. And no one should be judged for that. So I think that we're slowly kind of getting there. But of course, I get the comments like, stop normalizing this, like, da-da-da-da. And I'm like, I'm not normalizing anything. I'm living my life. So if that affects you and triggers you, you should figure out why.
Yeah.
But like, my existence shouldn't bother you.
Yeah, I hear that. I have a friend, her name is Ruby Rare, and she she's in non-monogamous relationships. And it was really her that allowed me to begin to understand and actually read some of the data. The satisfaction rates across both men and women
and people
are very
end
high.
up staying married longer. They stay together longer. There's a lot that goes into that. Again, I'm not a spokesperson. I'm not telling people to do it. I'm just saying that everybody has their thing. And if you really look into it, it's not that crazy.
Fair. That's fair. That's fair. Fair enough.
I mean, there's a lot of kids. I get that part. But listen, this whole little football team, they love each other, and they're going to have an amazing upbringing, and they're going to all have each other for life. And it's like a whole, canon gang over here. So
I hear it.
I love it.
I hear it.
Yeah.
Can we talk about motherhood?
Sure.
Because you, from what I understand, you've gone through miscarriage.
Yes.
Several miscarriages.
Yes, I did. I had several. And actually, when I got pregnant with Legendary, I had just had one, probably like 2 months before.
Oh, well.
At this time, they told me I couldn't get pregnant for at least 6 months, and I was like, fuck it, I'm going to Europe then. I'm leaving for the summer with my girls. Like, I can't deal with this. I'm out. And I was at the point where they were like, you're going to have to do in vitro. You're going to have to do something else. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I just don't feel like that's the way that I want to bring life into this world. That's not my vision of how I want to do it. And I had an all-natural birth, no drugs, no anything. It's not my thing. So I went to Europe, and I went for like a month, and then I came back and we went to film Wild 'N Out, and I found out I was pregnant. And my doctor was like, how are you pregnant? And I was like, I don't know. I'm peeing on the stick. It tells me I'm pregnant. And so we were shocked, but I also wasn't going to get excited about it because I was like, I've already had a few. So I was just like, all right, well, we'll just see what happens. And I feel like I was actually very detached from my pregnancy because I was like, well, if I lose it, it's going to be too much. So you're like, okay, I literally was working and working out like I wasn't pregnant. And everyone's like, you need to sit down. I was like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. And I had a fucking fantastic pregnancy, but I was also
emotionally detached.
Yeah. I was like, And even in my birthing video, when I had my son, I couldn't hold him. I was very I just need a minute, given I was fucking exhausted. It was like 10 plus hours of labor, no drugs, no anything, nothing.
This is, what do you call that type of birthing that you did?
Like a home birth?
Home birth.
All natural home birth.
Was it, is it hypobirthing? What is it?
Hypnobirthing.
Hypnobirthing.
Yes. I had an aspect of that, but I feel like that went right out the window when that really started active labor. I was like, fuck. There was no hypnobirthing anywhere in sight. I was like, fuck your mantras, get him out of me. And I was just done no, that was gone. I loved the thought. I tried.
You tried,
but
right.
No.
Fair enough.
Yeah, the anger, the old Bre came out in that one. I was like, he's got to go now. And I was 42 weeks. I was huge. I was way past due. And it was, he was like almost 10 pounds. So it was rough.
It was rough.
I had my whole family there. Like it was like all my friends, I call my family. So, my dad was there, everyone was there and we were celebrating. It wasn't like I was chained to a bed in a hospital with people coming in every 5 minutes. Like it was an awesome experience. But I think that because I had been so detached and it wasn't real to me and I was so exhausted, I was just like, I just need to recalibrate for a second. And then we had an incident. He didn't cry. Nick panicked. I could tell he was panicking and I immediately shut off. Like I was like, oh, he's not going to live. Like I was like, okay, I'm done. I've checked out. I'm out. And then it took like, I don't know, 2 minutes before I was like, she's going to say he's dead. I was like, oh my God. I was like sitting there like, okay, all right. And then he starts crying and I was like, oh, okay. And at that moment I was like, oh my God, I'm a fucking mom. Like what the fuck? I'm a mom. And it was like, I'm emotional. It's the only time I've ever like been like, what is happening? Like, this is my life. I have a baby. Like, what do I do? And I don't have a mom and I don't have like that figure. So I was like, oh shit, I have to figure this out like right now because I've been pretending like this isn't happening. So now I have to like figure it all out sitting here.
Can you describe the first moment? Because you said you couldn't hold your child initially. What was that, the first moment with your child like?
It wasn't really until I had already had like my little pass out whatever moment. And then I laid down in the bed. It was probably, I want to say it was like an hour later, honestly. Nick had him. And they were checking his vitals and all his stuff. Most people get those crazy shakes after you have a baby. And I just felt like I had no control of my body or anything. And I was just like, I can't hold him. Like, I can't. And like, I literally couldn't even get up. I couldn't do anything. And so after the little episode, I felt so much better. And I was like, okay. And then my grandma was like reassuring and, all of that. So it was just like it took me a second.
Yes.
And most women are like, let me see him. And I was like,
You needed a moment.
I did.
What do you think it was about your grandmother, though, that gave you the ability?
My grandma's my mom at the end of the day. Like, she raised me, It's like, so, and I had sent Nick's security at the time to go get her in Vegas. So, like, when I had started labor 10 hours earlier, I was like, you go get her now. So they went and got her, and she got there right after.
Okay.
So she missed it, but she didn't totally miss it because obviously she came in right when I had him.
And then Bre becomes a mom.
Yeah. So weird.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Did you suffer from postpartum?
Absolutely. Like, all the time. And, there was a lot that transpired. And I had a lot of awful people around me at that time, like new people. Like, most people in my life have been around for literally a decade. Like, everyone in my circle is solid. And this is right before I started the show and I had just gotten with Nick. And I had some people around that should not have been around. And I think it worsened it even more.
Okay.
And my postpartum was so bad to the point where I was like, what if I just smother him in myself? Like, it was bad. And like, people don't talk about it because it's like, as a mom, you feel so much shame. You're like, why would I ever say that? Why would I ever think that? And I'm like, I'm not going to hide that from people because I think that I found like this really weird community on TikTok, honestly.
Okay.
It was like seeing all these videos of like, I think because, your phone picks up on your conversations, I was having like real conversations with people I thought cared about me at the time. And my phone was picking up on it. So I was getting all these like postpartum videos and I was like, oh my God, I'm not crazy. Like, so I'm not totally fucked up. And like, I felt crazy. And when I saw them, I was like, oh, this is a real thing. Like, why don't people talk about this? Why does nobody tell you this before you have a baby? Like, why is this not a prerequisite to having a child to learn how to like see these things and how to deal with them and how to prepare for them and how to like have the right support. Like, why do we not have that?
Right.
It's not like
Oh, wow.
2% of women. Like, this is like majority of women. And I was like, I'm not gonna keep this to myself. That's just not who I am. So I was very honest about that. But women are also scared because there's a chance that you could take my child. You know what I mean? Like, if you say the wrong thing to the wrong person, you could lose your kid, even though you're just hormonally fucked and stressed and scared and all of the things that we go through. So it's like a really sad place because it's like, where are women supposed to go? You tell us the first thing your doctor asks you is, how are you feeling? And you're like, I'm fucking great. Please don't take my kid. Like, that's so scary.
Yeah, you don't want to be transparent.
You can't.
But what are you? I mean, you know, this is important for the guy, right? It's like, when you think about the low points, what were you thinking, seeing that you were scared to talk about?
It's just more expressing like how you feel in that moment, because think about it, you're sleep deprived. Like you're not sleeping at all. Your body just went through something so traumatic that is so downplayed that it's actually offensive that people act like this is such a normal thing. Like, it is so normalized that we are not getting enough love and support and like real attention to like what just happened. I created this human. I brought it into the earth. I literally killed myself nearly. Women die in labor. Like, I don't know why this is so like okay and normal. It's like women lose their lives to bring life into this world. And you're telling me I should go to work in 2 weeks? It's insane. And you're saying that after everything I've just went through and everything, like, I should just be okay? Like, I'm not okay. And it's okay to not be okay. But there should be more support for women. And I think that one thing I loved about Asian culture, which was one of the things I was coming across, was they have these hospitals and they take care of the mother. That's the forefront of it, because the mother is going to take care of your kid, right? Right now, we just need to hold you skin to skin and breastfeed, and that's it. Yeah. We need the love. We need to be supported, and we don't have that, especially in America. It's a fucking joke.
And then you have to kind of go home and deal with it yourself.
Yeah, and they give you nothing. Like, they don't even give you like a booklet. Like, you get nothing. It's just like here's your baby, good luck. That's crazy.
How did you deal with it?
I didn't. I literally was just like, all right, well, I read a lot. I read a lot during my pregnancy as well. And I feel like your natural instinct just kicks in. And then obviously immediately I loved him after. I was like, the next day. And then it was like, okay, I'm fine. But filming took me out.
Yeah, which I mean, we have to definitely go there, because I'm curious, because you immediately go into filming. But just almost like a full stop on motherhood is that I find this to be such an interesting arc in your life.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine there were many years where you never thought you would be a mom.
Yeah. I went back and forth a lot. Like, I was like, maybe I won't have kids. Yeah. Maybe not. Maybe I'm selfish and I don't need kids. Like, maybe I'll just, skip that whole chapter along with getting married. But there was a big part of me that always knew I wanted to be a mom, and that, I wanted that legacy, and I wanted that opportunity to have that love and bonds that I wanted as well. So I think there was a bit still in there of the selfishness, but I was like, I can do this, and I could do this better, and I would genuinely love my kid, and this would be like my bestie, which he entirely is and will forever be.
Is it almost fair to say that, throughout your life, you wanted to be loved so much?
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't?
You created someone that you could love.
Of course.
To the same degree.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now when you think about motherhood, even to this day, right?
Yeah.
How did it change you?
I literally, I couldn't even name every single thing about me, from the way that I think, from the way that I move, the things that are important to me, the people that I allow around. My tolerance for bullshit is even less. Yeah. Everything. I mean, I think more about the things that come out of my mouth. I'm more intentional. Everything has a purpose. Everything has to mean something for me to do it and spend my time and my energy. And I'm constantly working on myself to be better for him, which was not something I really cared about before, to be entirely honest. They're the biggest reflection of you, good and bad. So I think that regardless on everything, he was going to make me change whether I wanted to or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at that. I always say children are angels.
Yeah, they are.
And they are sent to us to literally change us. and it's like they teach us to become parents.
Dead ass. I literally was like, well, thank you, because I don't know what I'm doing. So yeah, no, he definitely and he's very funny. He's definitely steered me the whole way. Like, he's a very opinionated little 2-year-old now.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I love it for you,
Thank you. Yeah.
So now you have a child, and then you immediately decide to enter what has become one of the most watched, top-rated shows out there. Yeah. So Selling Sunset, how do you even get that opportunity?
They had asked me a few times previously, and I wasn't interested. I was very much in my, I'm living my life, and nobody really knows about my relationships. I do what I want to do. I was still private for the most part. And even with Johnny, I still maintained a lot of privacy.
Okay.
And it wasn't really until I got outed for my pregnancy that I was like, well, fuck it. Now everything's out. Let's just embrace it. Let's just do it.
Because when you say you got outed, is that you and Nick were attempting to keep that private?
I was.
You were?
I was, because I had kind of seen what had happened with other people involved. And I was like, you know what? I've worked so hard. I don't need this. And, it was more of my own personal decision. And there was a part of me that was like, when it's time, I will come out with it for Legendary, but in this moment, I don't think it's necessary, and I don't need any added stress, and I don't need any of these things, and I don't need opinions, and I don't need any of it. I definitely don't I don't owe anyone anything. And at this time was when people were really going hard on the internet, and I was like, I can just skip all of this and just keep my peace.
Just keep it. So how were you outed?
So I don't know exactly what happened. I did a helicopter reveal drop, and I wanted to be on the beach. But, excuse me, I was like, if I go to...
I'm sorry, Bre. A helicopter reveal drop. This is very high end for me. So can you break down what a helicopter...
I know, I just threw that in there subtly. I'm like, just a helicopter reveal. Basically, I didn't really want to have a baby shower, and I wanted to do an elaborate reveal, but I didn't want to do the whole thing, the whole party, the whole whatever.
But the helicopter, what does the helicopter drop?
The color.
Oh, so it just rains down
Not
blue.
Not like babies, it drops the color.
Babies everywhere.
Babies for everybody. No, it's going to be pink or it's going to be blue.
So it just drops lots of
Yeah, it's I don't know what it is.
Confetti.
No, it was smoke. Maybe?
Oh, blue smoke.
Everything was blue. It was confetti as well, but it was a big, I see. Yeah, I had to have a moment.
Was it a blue helicopter too?
No, I wish it was though. They would have told me too soon, because everyone was trying to scare me that I was a girl, and I was like, no, it's a boy. I know it's a boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that happens. You're recording it, obviously, yes. But then someone takes that.
So it was the Santa Monica walkway, boardway part. You could stand up there and you could see down into the house.
Okay.
But that's very calculated. So I'm like, somebody here tipped you off to be able to have that view, to be able to do that. So that's where I was very confused, and everybody hid for the rest of my pregnancy and everything, because I was how does that get out in such a small group and renting a house?
And I would imagine the moment that gets out too, you're the villain again.
Absolutely.
And what's the press? What is everyone saying about you?
The same thing they say about everybody. Oh, another baby and the this and the that. And I was like, yeah, I'm signing off. I don't need any of this. I'm good. And I'm able to check out of that. But there was a lot of racial hate that I didn't anticipate.
Interesting.
And, people being like, your child dies and blah, blah, I was getting crazy shit. And I was like, what is this? I've never experienced this before. And Nick was like, you are having a black child. And I was like, what does that mean? What does that mean? And that was I was so ignorant to all of it. I was like, why would somebody send me that? Why would somebody hate a baby? It was so confusing and upsetting. And I was like, I'm off the fucking internet. I was like, get me out of here. Because my clapback game then was too much. Yeah. So I had to just sign all the way off.
Stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would imagine though, if you were getting death threats.
Well, they were wishing dead on my child.
Not even on you,
both,
on your child.
Both you and your child die and this and calling me all kinds of names and whatever.
But at this point though, you must think about, how do I, protect myself even more?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I just see the internet as not a real place.
Okay.
It's just not a real place to me. And I'm like, I understand, again, I'm here to make money. So I understand that aspect of it. But otherwise, like, it's just not a real place. Like, I'm like, you're crazy. Okay, bye. Like, I don't even really, I probably should have taken it a little bit more seriously, thinking back on it with threats like that, especially people knowing what you look like and all of those things. But I didn't. I more of just was like, fuck you all and let me just get off of here.
So you disconnected from that. You distanced yourself from that.
Yeah.
Right? But then you were talking about with Selling Sunset, they must, because you went to work fairly quickly after giving
6 weeks.
birth, 6 weeks. So they must have been talking to you early.
Yeah.
Or offering you early.
Yeah. So I made the decision when I was still pregnant. My producer always tells this story. I came in with my belly out in this crazy outfit, and he was like, she's going to be bold. And I was dying. I was like, what? You don't like my outfit? But yeah, it was probably, I was like 9 months pregnant, about to have the baby any day. And I was taking my last meeting with production and Netflix before I decided
to do it. But what gives you, why do you go forward with that? Because I would imagine you.
Yeah. Nick was like, you should do it. Why not? And I was like, are you sure I should do this? I don't know. It's a reality show. I don't know. We sat down and watched it together. And like at the time, it wasn't as dark and crazy as it's gotten. It was way more like dumb surface level drama. And I was like, oh, I could do this. Okay, cool. And I felt good. And then I got there and I was like, are you guys all unhinged? What is this? Like, this is horrific. And
it's not what you thought it was.
Absolutely not. And I don't know why my season was the turning point, but I was like, okay, well, I'm already here. So now what? Now I just got to figure it out.
So you go into a tornado.
Yes.
Yeah, because, all right, so we'll call it a tornado.
I don't even know what it was.
But then also, you're a new mom at the same time.
Yeah.
You're navigating all the things that the press is saying about you. You still have all that hate, a hate cloud around you.
Oh, yeah.
So who do you have in your life that's supporting you?
Yeah, I mean, no one really. I mean, I kind of did. Like, I had my best friend, Erica, but she also has her family and her daughter. And, you know, it's like I distanced myself from most of my friends because none of them really had kids. And I was like kind of okay with my mom, but like I was just kind of like allowing it because Nick wanted me to. And he was like, give her a chance. Maybe she'll be better. And I was like, no, she won't, but okay. And, you know, I had my grandma. It was a very dark year for me, for sure, because it's like I'm taking this huge stride in being a mom and not knowing what the fuck I'm doing. And now I've been thrown into the public eye where everyone's like attacking me as Nick Cannon's baby mama, and it's this and it's that. And then I got this fucking crazy girl on the show attacking me. And like everywhere I go, I'm like, bro, can I just take a nap? I'm tired.
Yes.
I'm fully breastfeeding. I breastfed him for a year. So it's like in between scenes and like while I'm driving there and back. And like I didn't have a night nurse. So I was up with him all night by myself. And like I didn't want one because I felt I'm breastfeeding. What's the point? She's just going to wake me up anyways. And, you know, I went straight from work straight into mommy mode. And it was hard. Yeah. It was really fucking hard.
And I would imagine there's also the unknown as well, because you shoot a show like that, you don't know how it's going to be edited.
No, I had no idea.
What's going to make it? Yeah.
I was shocked when I saw season 6. I was like, are you guys fucking kidding me right now? Like, what is this? Like, you're talking shit about me the whole time. You're talking about kids. You're talking about Nick. Like, all of the things you swore would never be a topic. And I'm literally fighting for my life every day, at home, here, everywhere. Like, what is wrong with you people? Like, and it's like a part of TV, but at the end of the day, it's like, this is still my real life.
Right.
Like, I still have to deal with this and go home. Like, I was like, you can't, like, a lot of people couldn't take what I just went through. Like, it was crazy to me. The whole experience was like, it was a lot.
Do you think that on the show, that particular series, do you think that you were targeted in particular because you are Nick Cannon's baby mama and then, okay.
I think originally, and I say this with love because I love the producer of our show, Adam's a genius. However, I think originally I was placed in there as a little bit of a hype and more of like somebody that would be like an easy target without them really knowing how much fight I had in me. So I think that in that time it was a pivotal point with Christine leaving, and I definitely have the spice and I have all of those components that people love about Christine. I'm very different from Christine, but I think that at that time, it was like, okay, so she's going to bring what's going on right now, which is the Nick Cannon situation. She's going to bring a bunch of other things that we can kind of utilize. And instead of letting it consume me and, have me flip out and do all the things that I'm sure they were hoping I would do, I did the complete opposite. And I think that without me having all the life experience that I had, that show could have ruined my life. I could have been Nicole. Sorry, Nicole. But I was like, she did not know what she was doing. So I feel like I was set up for failure in so many ways. And it's just, another testament to everything I went through was like for a reason. And I will crawl to the motherfucking top if I have to, but you're not taking me out. I will be the only person to take me out. So it was a big lesson.
Yeah. And you say that you could have been taken out, but it feels like the masses are on your side. Like, I
was shocked.
I saw the people here in this office in line to meet you. So, you flipped the script.
Yeah, but the thing is I was truly just me, and I'm very like, take it or fucking leave it. Like, I'm always consistent. I'm quite predictable. So it's like, there's a level to that like, if you don't respect me, that only says something about you. But again, you don't have to like me, but that's also being an adult.
Yes. Yeah. But I'm sure you feel the love.
I do. I do. And I was like so shocked, and I appreciate it so much because I was nervous that they were going to, take away everything that I've built and label me Nick Cannon's baby mama and this whatever. And like, it's scary to go into a situation where people can decide who you are and they have full control over that.
Yes.
And once that's there, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. And even also that impacts your career.
My real life, my real money, my things that I'm going to do after this show is over. Like, you could really damage that. Like, I have a lot of respect for people that do TV, and I wish the internet and people had a little bit more, because these people are not just entertaining, they're giving you their life.
Yes.
The highs, the lows, and like allowing you to just berate them and say awful things about them and like discredit them and do all of these things and still entertaining you.
Yes.
So it's just kind of like, I don't know. I hope that eventually someday it gets a little bit better. But at this point, you just got to have thick skin.
What's interesting to me is that you have been the villain and ostracized throughout most of your life.
Yeah.
And you've just been on Selling Sunset for how long?
Well, it's 4 seasons now.
Yeah, but it's the last 3 years.
Yeah,
3 years.
Yeah.
So the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So you spent the entire life being villainized.
Yeah.
The last 3 years, people are showing you love. There's still some villainizing going on.
Yeah.
But you're starting to see that love. How does that feel to you?
I sometimes it's like not even real. Like last night, I gave an award away and people were like screaming, and I was like, "What is there something wrong? Like, what is me?" Like, it's like shocking to me because for so long people have been like, "She's such a bitch," and it's this and it's that, and so it's like so freeing and so beautiful to be able to like be accepted for like who I actually am, and that I get to like truly just be me. And to have people actually like it is just crazy. So I'm like, oh really? Oh, you lying? Like, it was so weird to me, and I still am not used to it. So like people come up and talk to me and they're like, "I'm sure you don't want to hear this." I'm like, "No, I want to hear it. Tell me, like, how do you feel?" And so I'm like, it's still surreal. It's just such a weird thing, honestly. I don't think I'll ever get used to it.
Yeah. So if you were to go back with the offer to join Selling Sunset,
yeah,
would you still have joined?
At that time?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everything happens for a reason. I don't ever regret anything I do. The only thing I think for me was I wish I had more time with my son. I wish I would have had a little bit more time before I started. And that's just mom guilt, which I'll have forever. So I think, but essentially, no, I never regret anything. And I stand by everything I do and all the dumb shit I say and everything else. But I feel like that was what I was meant to do. And honestly, it was probably a blessing because I was probably too tired to cuss Chelsea out. So honestly, it probably did me a favor. Yeah, I was like, you know what? I just need a nap. I don't care.
Do you think that you two will ever reconcile?
No.
Never?
Never. We tried. I tried last time. And the way last season went, I'm not friends with any of them anymore. So I'm good on that. And I have so much respect for their tripod, and enjoy.
Okay, I hear it.
I'm like, I want no part of it.
I hear it.
Yeah.
I hear it.
I'm good.
What's the future like for you?
I have so many things. I'm opening a Pilates studio that has like childcare so I can support moms and give them a place to bring their kids so that they can get in shape and mentally, physically, all of the things. I have a swim line coming out. I have a home line coming out. Like I have so many things that I'm working on. And I'm just going to hit that next tier every year.
The next tier.
Keep next tier. I need that yacht in San Tropez
That's
so that I
what-
can just go be with my son all summer. That's what I'm striving for.
Can I say this?
Yeah.
Is that this is what is standing out the most to me about you,
Okay.
is that you are, I think, the perfect definition of knowing self-worth.
Thank you.
You are.
Thank you. Because most people think the opposite.
That has remained consistent
Yeah.
from 13 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to be emancipated because I know this is not the right environment for me.
Yep.
To 18,
Yep.
to leaving Nick,
Yep.
the first Nick.
Yeah. Exactly. The first
Yeah.
Nick and then the next Nick.
Nick Hogan, deciding to divorce,
Yeah.
how you move throughout your career,
Yeah.
even how you've decided to not engage in certain drama that happens. It's about knowing self-worth.
Yeah.
I think that's a massive lesson that we can take from your life. I think
Thank
there are lessons we can take from everyone's life,
Of course.
but this is really what I'm taking away.
Oh, thank you. Because I feel like the biggest narrative is these women have no self-worth and they're this and they're that. And I'm like, I don't think so at all. I don't think that's any of our narratives involved, to be honest. So that means a lot to me because I definitely know my self-worth, that I'm not insecure and I'm not all of these things that I've been labeled due to my choice of partner. And so that's obviously a big thing for me. So I appreciate that.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about these wildfires.
Let's do it.
Because it seems like I haven't visited the States, and I've not visited LA since the wildfires. But my God, I've never seen anything like this.
It was devastating. It's the worst one we've ever had for sure. It was just bizarre though, honestly, like how it's hitting all of these surrounding areas. Like fires don't usually spread like that. So my experience, I grew up in Calabasas and we're in a very rural area, a lot of greenery, very beautiful. And we have fires every year. Like I remember being evacuated almost every year.
Okay.
Like this is like a common thing. So we're pretty used to the fires for the most part. But this one was just different. To watch friends and clients and people lose everything, it was just mind-blowing. When you like see your whole city on fire and chaos and then people taking opportunities to rob everyone while it's happening, and just like you're just like, what is this? What in the apocalypse is happening right now? And there's like nothing you can do about it but wait. And fire is a scary one because, you know, with all the embers, it jumps and it starts other places, not usually like whole different cities, but there was a lot going on there, and it felt very much like we were surrounded, especially where I was. And to see the amount of people like fleeing and just like, it was just so scary and dark and sad.
And sad. I mean, you look at the deaths.
Yeah.
You look at even what's going to now happen in terms of lingering health issues
Yes. Yeah.
as a result of smoke, debris, et cetera, the structure damage.
Yeah.
But one thing that you have mentioned that I've heard now many people talk about is, was there any intention
Yeah.
behind? Were these
Very
fires
strange.
intentionally set? What's your take on it?
The one behind my house was 100% deemed arson. Like people are moving out of LA and they're like, well, I can't even rebuild my house. Insurance isn't even covering it.
Exactly. And I've even heard or read reports of landlords increasing gouging. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is happening.
Oh, yeah. And Jason went hard on this, which is something you will see in the season. But he, you know, it is illegal to do what they're doing. There's a clause during natural hazards that you cannot increase rents and certain things. And anyone that's using this as an opportunity during such a devastating moment is just gross. But unfortunately, that's what majority of people do. They know that there's only so much prime real estate in areas to be in, and they know that they could double their price or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're literally prosecuting agents as well.
Gosh,
Yeah.
it's incredible.
It's crazy.
And then also insurance companies.
Oh yeah, they told everyone to fuck off. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's mad.
They're like, oh, we're not going to pay you. It's like, we pay insane premiums for fire insurance. Like, I want to say like 4 times, maybe even more, what we pay for other insurances. And then you don't cover it.
Right.
That's
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's incredibly sad.
Yeah.
Incredibly sad. Well then, Bre, I have one final question for you.
Okay.
This is the question
Okay.
that everyone gets. And this is my favorite question.
Okay.
Okay. So if you think back across your life, you've had incredible conversations. I know you have with incredible people.
Yeah.
What was the most memorable conversation that you had? Who was it with?
Okay.
And what did you learn?
I think the most memorable one I ever had was with my friend's mom who passed away. And she just literally made me have this appreciation and like will to live. And like, I don't know, there was something about like being in her darkest time where she was like, you have so much potential and so much life and I need you to like live for her, that it was like okay, I can do that. Like, I can do this. Like, you deserve this. She should have been here with me. Like, I can do that. I think that was the hardest conversation because in that moment, you're like so young and you're like, I don't know what I could do for you. But like looking back, I was like, that shifted so much because I felt like I had even more of a fight for somebody that like wasn't here. And I think that was like the first time I really like I made a serious commitment. Like, I always knew I wanted to do stuff with my life, but to her, it like meant something that I like did what I said I was going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pride.
Oh, so much. I have so much pride. I'll be like, no, like if I say, that's one thing about me. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm doing it. It doesn't matter. Like if I make you a promise, even if I don't like you at the end of it, like I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I see it.
Yeah.
Your life is a testament to this as well.
Sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, Bre, this has been an honor.
Thank you.
I have learned so much.
I was like, I had to relive everything.
My jaw was
I'm
like, I was like,
dead.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But I tell you, I appreciate your transparency,
Thank you.
your honesty in this. You are who you are on television is who you are in person.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of people show up on TV as a complete, a reduced version or a blown up version of themselves.
Yes.
But you are consistent.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know how people maintain that image. Honestly, I don't know how they do it. Like, it's like, what mask are you wearing today? That's exhausting.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'll just paint my same one on every day.
It's like, I like the one that I have on.
I like this one. It's fine. It fits great. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Super. Thank you so much.
How did you find that one?
That's my reaction.
Wow.
One, can I just say, I'm so happy that Bre felt comfortable to give us her full truth. Yeah. The stories I just heard are stories that I have never heard. I didn't realize how passed over she felt. Her mother literally gave up on her. And she kept being passed around, and at a certain point realized she has to fight for herself. To then begin the emancipation process from your parents at 13, it's just, it's almost unheard of to now have to fend for yourself, to earn income for yourself, to care and love yourself when you feel as if no one cares for you. For her to have gone through that, but still have a sense of self-worth, and you can see that self-worth show up time and time again throughout her life was profound. I think there's a narrative that she's just hung on to famous men, found herself on this hit television show, makes lots of money. But in actuality, she has been driven since the age of 13. I think my parents desired more for me at 13 than I desired for myself. So you could see that, yes, that drive is incredible. More and more that I talk to those who are in non-monogamous relationships, I come to the understanding that it's what works for you.
Did you change your opinion on it at all?
No.
No. Not opening your relationship anytime soon.
No. What seemed to be clear to me is that Bre is still navigating the parameters of her relationship. And what I appreciated is she admitted to, yes, at times I have been jealous, but the fact that she sees this as the healthiest relationship that she's ever had is a massive statement. There are 8 billion people in this world, and what differentiates all of us is that each of us is unique. And Bre is someone who, if you just kind of look at her and you don't examine her life, you could think, oh, she's just imitating others. But in actuality, she has figured out who she is, and she's doubled down on that. And it's her authenticity is why she wins. Every episode of this podcast comes to life with the help of Adobe Express, the quick and easy create anything app from Adobe, even if you don't have any design experience. I couldn't be more grateful for how much making this podcast lights me up. Getting to have these conversations, sharing stories, and connecting with you all, it's the work that makes me feel truly alive. But finding that kind of work doesn't happen overnight. I've taken risks, switched lanes, and followed paths that have felt uncertain, all in the hope of doing something meaningful. Whether you're launching a new business, starting a side hustle, or simply putting your ideas out into the world, you've got to be willing to take that first step. And Adobe Express is the tool that helps make those steps easier. It's got ready-to-go templates and AI-powered features to create professional designs, social media posts, and logos in minutes, whether you're an amateur or a seasoned designer. It's free to try. Just search Adobe Express and see where it takes you.